Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Exodus Proxima Centauri, the revised edition. Yeah, it has the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. That's because we've already reviewed this game.
Yes, we have.
In its first form, we played this in the prototype, the regular form, and now the new form. This version, basically, the differences are mostly in how the tiles are built, and they're done in a much better way, actually. So, if this game already has Dice Tower Seal of Excellence, you already know how we feel about it. So we're going to talk a little bit. I'll show you how the game plays, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we feel about it now that time has passed. We played it more times.
Yep.
So here we go.
All right.
There's obviously a lot going on in this game, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything, so just some overviews of the game. Here you can see I have a setup of this is a 4-player game. There's multiple setups. Setups are semi-random. You have this space station that's placed in the middle. Each person has their own planet, and I didn't put them out there, but every single spot out there will have a little die placed on it showing the number of resources on that planet. So you can see here, for example, that this planet here, Cataquil, has a 5 on it, so I would put a 5 die there to show that there are 5 of this red resource there. We have 3 main resources in the game. We have these red and green resources, which are called axinium and phasium, respectively. And then we have these CPs here, the blue ones, and that's basically, think of that as money. Many of these spots here have these colored things on them. Those are to show resistance. So if you go to one of those spots, you're going to have to fight the resistance. And to do that, you'll draw the top card of the appropriate resistance deck. It will show you the weapons that the resistance has and the shields that they have. And if you beat them, you can either keep them for the end of the game for some points, or you can take a free technology. Speaking of that, here's each player's board. And players have a board like this. Each player has 8 ships. These 2 ships match the same thing here. As the game progresses, you will be able to add better engines and better weapons to these ships as time goes by. The more weapons your ship has, the more shields the more dice you have, you'll roll when you attack with it. The more shields you have on a ship, the more hit points you can take. And the more engines, the more spaces your ship can move. Guess I should put these engines on correctly. You also have these tokens over here to differentiate between your 2 ships if you need to, and players have a bunch of dice that they can roll in combat and for other reasons. Players also have a pile of cubes. These cubes count for everything. They will be able to use these cubes on the technology track. Now, technology in this game is very interesting. You can put, when it's your turn to take technology, you can take technology. Each technology has a cost. You can see that phasium refinery, which basically means when you are mining phasium, you will be able to mine more than one at a time. And when players have that technology, it costs 4 of the CPs to be able to take that. However, every time you take a new technology, if you take a technology that's in the same column as one that you've already taken, you get a discount of 1. And also if you take one that's the same type. Each one has a type in the top left-hand corner. You can see the expert cloning here is the same type as phasium refinery, so this would give me -2 to that cost. So that one would only cost me 9 rather than 11. So the more technologies you have, the cheaper future technologies get. Down here are the tracks. You can keep track of how many CPs and phasiums and the different resources that you have. And then there's a main player board over here. This is where, if you're kind of silly, you can stack up all the upgrades, which is kind of crazy because they'll fall over. There's also a market here. Depending on the number of players will be able to put these cubes on the different markets and be able to trade. Now, the first thing that happens over the course of the game is going to happen down here. You're going to turn over some politic cards, 3 politic cards. Some of these politic cards are things that are laws that will go into effect permanently. Like this one, all technologies are reduced by 1 for the rest of the game. Here, all the damage tokens from all ships are immediately removed. So all ships would heal 1 or all their things. Or the cost of buying rockets is reduced by 1 phasium. So you can pick one of these. This is one that happens for 1 turn. This is one that happens for the whole game. This is one that happens immediately. Players each have an A, B, and C, so they can use that, and they hold it out secretly as a vote. But they can also hold out some money tokens, and they can also pay money to add more votes to their votes, and whichever one of these laws is picked becomes the law for that round. Then players will have a vote to see who Chancellor is. Chancellor, if you're holding this card at the end of the game, is worth 5, and Vice Chancellor, second place, is 3rd. These players go 1st and 2nd each time, but the Vice Chancellor also each round will pick 2 bonus actions amongst all the bonus actions. He'll give them to the Chancellor, who will then pick one of those actions as either the bonus action everybody's going to take, or he can throw them both out and say there's no bonus action. Players will then go through a round of actions. They will do so through using action cards from their hand. A player will all play an action card. They'll reveal them at the same time, and in player order, each person will take the top action of their card. After they've done that, players can pay population cubes. You'll have population cubes in your planet. You get 2 on your home planet every turn. You'll use those. You'll transport those in your ships to drop off. Some of your ships here, you can see, can transport cubes. You can drop those off on other planets to take over those planets and get the resources from those planets. But you also can discard them to take these secondary actions that are on other people's cards. So this one here, which is banking and gives you some CPs, if you take it, also gives everybody else the chance to take a research action and pay for a research card. I might want research, so I can do research, but that gives a chance for everybody else to go to the market and use the markets. If I want to use markets, everybody else has a chance to buy new ships. And if I want to mine on my planets, everybody else will have a chance to buy upgrades for their ships, etc. So you have to decide when you think about your action. You also have to think about the secondary action that you're offering to other players. So players will all get 2 actions, although one of the technologies here allows you a 3rd action. And then after that, players are going to move their ships on the board, and they're going to do that twice. Each time players move their ships, they're going to secretly put little tokens next to each of their ships on the board, and these tokens have a number on them. If you'll notice, these tiles, which looked a little busy, have a number on them, and so that will show which direction your ship is moving from 1 to 6, although there are blank tokens if you would prefer your ship to stay in the spot that it is in currently. So players will move your ships around, and either you'll fight these resistant ships or you'll fight your opponent's ships, and you'll drop people off on the different planets. At the beginning of each turn, you also will mine these planets, so you'll subtract from the number that's shown on the die, and you'll take, for the phase, if the green and the red ones, you'll take one of those for CPs. You'll take 5 of those for each one that you subtract. If you have minings, let's say I had mining here, instead of going from 5 to 4, I could go from 5 to 3. There's one of the actions can let you add numbers to these so that you have more to take away, because once the die is gone and depleted, you can't get any more resources until you mine and add more resources to that planet. So this is kind of a basic overview. I didn't tell you every single rule, but that's basically what we're going to do turn after turn after turn. The turn tracks are kept over here. How do you get victory points in this game? Well, when you destroy enemy ships in combat, each enemy ship is worth a certain number of points, and so you will immediately score those points. And at the end of the game, you'll get bonus points for the different neutral ships that you've destroyed and kept their cards. You'll also get bonus points for each planet that you have the most population cubes on. You can see here that this planet is worth 4 victory points. And you also will get points for every spot on the board where you have ships, 2 points for every spot where you have ships, period. And if you control the center area with the space station, you have 5 bonus points, plus some bonus points for the cards. Whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. All right, Exodus Proxima Centauri. This is a game about space, and we've already talked about how it compares. It's kind of a 4X game. There's technology, there's expansion. Well, actually, exploration is not really a part of this game.
No.
Because the universe is already there. The only exploration would be what ships you find, the enemy ships.
True. Yeah, you find pirates, I guess you could say. I guess you could call them pirates, but they're really not pirates. They could be indigenous peoples, whatever.
we're trying to paint ourselves in the best light.
Yeah,
so of course they're pirates.
Okay, they're pirates. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys.
The game, what's interesting I've discovered as I played this game more is it's easy to get lost in the game and forget about final scoring. Because in final scoring, you score for where your ships are, planets you control, and battles that you've won. So the game encourages attacking and stuff, but if you win a pretty major battle over the course of a game, that can really do well for you.
Big boost, yeah. Point-wise.
And technology is a pretty critical thing in this game, I think.
Yeah, you have to do well technology. It's almost if you leave technology alone, you're probably not going to do well.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I still think there's multiple technologies that you can try.
Yeah.
I think that there's different routes that you can do in the game, but there are some technologies that, as you're playing the game, you're like, maybe you should think about that
They're
one.
a lot beefier.
So, now the time frame. What do you think about the time frame for the game?
It's shorter. It's still a long-ish game though. It's not like it's done and over in an hour and a half. You're still going to put
It says 30 to 45 minutes per player. I think 45 minutes per player is pretty accurate.
Probably pretty close. I mean, if you stoke up a four-player game, you're going to put in at least, I think, 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't think at least. I think 3 hours is. I mean, once you know what you're doing, I think 3 hours is pretty reasonable.
Depends on how fast you play. I mean, if you've got some AP people going on, I mean, they can.
But we can say that about any game.
Yeah, I understand that.
What do you think about the changes they made? Some of the cosmetic changes. First of all, in the original game, they had these little cylinders of resources that were all over the board, and you took those cylinders off. Now they have little dice that you change the pips on, which is better.
That's better. The dice pips is better, much better. I mean, I guess the aesthetic appeal to it is diminished a little bit because there's just a bunch of dice sitting around. But it as far as gameplay is concerned, it's much better because the board is not as cluttered.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go buy some little dice of the different colors so that you can differentiate more easily.
That would be cool.
I will say this as a side note: if you're publishing a game and you're going to use resources, as much as I hate cubes, they're better than cylinders. Because when a cube falls over, it doesn't roll off the board. But anyway, so that's a plus. What do you think about the keeping track of the different resources on your board with tracks rather than having piles of the resources?
That's fine. It felt a little bit Eclipse-ish that way, and that's fine. The accounting mechanism is, I think, better. The one thing that I really liked about it, I can't remember if it was a change or not, is the holes that were in the board. I don't think that.
Oh no, that wasn't in the original one. Yeah.
But that was the one thing that I thought was really cool, is marking which technology you had. That was a good idea, I thought.
Yeah, it's really easy to maneuver. What do you think about the ships? This is one thing they changed from the first edition to the second, where they had pieces that fit into the ships on the sides. Now you just place them on top of the ships, and all your ships are on one big sheet. It's kind of a condensed thing.
Much better. The other way seemed like it was trying to be a puzzle mechanic almost, to where, to make it, oh, look, I'm playing.
Well, it was kind of cool.
No, it wasn't. Laying the things on top is much better. It's much more. I don't know about. It's not thematic. What word am I looking for? I don't know. It just works better. Having the little tokens, placing them on the thing instead of trying to, because they didn't fit. Some of them didn't even fit right. This is much better.
One of the things about this game is, while it has the resource collection and gathering, and it has technologies and stuff, the game really does kind of push you to attack other players.
Yeah.
Because if you don't attack other players, one player can just sit there and go, all right, you're not going to attack me, I'm going to attack you.
Right.
And attacking in this game can really do some damage, especially with the missiles.
Yes. The wonderful missiles.
Now, the missiles are expensive to get. It's possible to get them quicker depending on some of the politic cards that come up.
Unless a weird freak of nature occurs, and you're able to get missiles on the second turn of the game.
But usually that's not possible. But missiles do ramp everything up, because especially the Buster missiles. Now, if I house rolled a game, I would house roll this game that those atomic, I forget what they're called now,
Nuclear missiles.
They're nuclear. The ones that blow up the whole planet.
Yeah.
That when you shoot those, they're one shots. That's how I would use them, because otherwise the whole game devolves into this whole who can build missiles faster.
No, it has a cold. I'm calling it a Cold War problem, because if somebody gets nuclear missiles first, like what happened in our last game, especially if that person is a munchkin, they wave that little missile around and say, "Hey, you're gonna do what I want you to do, or else." And
you know what though?
The whole game just fell at that point into, I don't know, just the fun got sucked out of the game at that point.
Well, right. I don't think it actually destroys. I don't think getting missiles first means you're going to win. Because when you blow planets up, you are not helping yourself and you're irritating other people.
Exactly.
And, there's.
No, I mean, the person that got missiles didn't win that last game.
Well, right. Well, that's because they took all their goodwill that they had for that game in the last 20 and threw it out the window. But I do like the fact that the missiles exist as a deterrent. I think that's a cool idea in the game. So anyhow, but I mean, other than that, I think the ships are cool looking, the plastic ships. I think it's nice that there's not 200 ships. Usually I'm a fan of that. But having only 8, but having really powerful ships.
They're really powerful ships, yeah. It works well. I mean, it doesn't feel like a light game.
No, I don't think it is a light game.
But it is a light game compared to other better games.
All right. Well, anyhow, I still like this one a lot. I still give it the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. It's my go-to space epic in a box that's 3 hours or less.
Okay.
That's what I would put it as. And I think it works well in that regard. It has a lot of options, and they told me that in the expansion, they're going to add even more technologies and things to go for. So I'm very excited about that.
That's cool.
I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. But just now in the box, I'm giving this one 2 nuclear missiles up.
2 nukes. Whoa. He's definitely
Beat that.
a Democrat. I'm going to give this 2 warbirds up, because this is definitely a game that you can pull out when you have that Twilight Imperium 3 itch, but you just don't have the 6 to 8 hours it takes to scratch it. You can pull this out, and at least you can live another day.
All right, Exodus Proxima Centauri revised.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.